Hymn Stories number 61, Nearer, My God, to Thee. Nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee. E'en though it be a cross that raiseth me, still all my song shall be nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee. Thou like the wanderer, the sundown darkness be over me, my rest a stone, yet in my dreams I'd be nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee. There let the way appear, steps unto heaven. All that Thou sendest me in mercy give. Angels to beckon me near, my God, to Thee, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee. Then with my waking thoughts, bright with Thy praise, out of my stony griefs, Bethel I raise. So by my woes to be near, my God, to Thee, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee. Or if on joyful wing, cleaving the sky, sun, moon, and stars forgot, upward I fly, still all my song shall be near, my God, to Thee, nearer, my God, to me, nearer to Thee. The author of this hymn is Sarah F. Adams from 1805 to 1848. The composer for this musical score is Lowell Mason from 1792 to 1872. The tune name is To Bethany. The meter reading is 64.64.6664. And the scripture reference for the hymn itself is Genesis 28, verses 10 through 22. And the scripture reading for this hymn is from James 4, verse 8, which says, "Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you." Nearer, my God, to Thee is generally considered by students of the hymnology to be the finest hymn ever written by any woman hymn writer. Sarah Flower Adams was born at Harlow, England on February 22nd, 1805, and she died at the early age of 43. She was active for a time on the stage, playing the part of Lady Macbeth in London. She was also widely known for her many literary accomplishments. Though her delicate health was always a handicap for her many ambitions, in 1834 she married a prominent inventor and civil engineer, John Bridges Adams, and until Sarah's death 14 years later, this distinguished couple continued to make their home in London. Sarah's talent, beauty, charm, and exalted character always made her a deep impression upon all who knew her. Sarah's sister, Eliza, also a talented lady, being an accomplished musician, she wrote the music for many of Sarah's hymn texts. One day, the Unitarian pastor, the Reverend William Johnson Fox, asked these two exceptional sisters if they would aid him in the preparation of a new hymnal he was compiling for the congregation. The two sisters soon became busily involved and committed to this project. Together, they contributed 13 texts and 62 new tunes. The text for this hymn is based on the dream that Jacob had in the desert when he was fleeing as a fugitive from his home and his brother Esau. Upon awakening from the dream and seeing the ascending, descending angels, Jacob called the place Bethel, the house of God. One day, the two sisters were busily involved with their pastor in completing their final details for the new hymn, soon to be published. The pastor remarked that he wished he could find the hymn to conclude a sermon he was preparing on the account of Jacob and Esau, as recorded in Genesis 28, verses 10 through 22. Sister Eliza interrupted enthusiastically and said, "Sarah, now there's an excellent idea for a new hymn for our hymnal. Why don't you write your own hymn about Jacob's dream?" "Splendid," replied the pastor. Later that day, after spending much time in studying the Genesis account, absorbing the atmosphere and feeling the dramatic movement of this Old Testament narrative, Sarah began to write. Soon she had versified the complete biblical story in these 5 stanzas still in use today. The hymn has sometimes been criticized since there is no reference to the person or work of Christ through the text. During most of Sarah Adams' life, she attended the Unitarian Church. This association no doubt accounts for her lack of evangelical fervor in her text. Interestingly enough, however, the hymn is found in nearly every published hymnal and has won its way into the hearts of believers around the world with its many translations into their languages. There is evidence from some of her last writings that shortly before the close of her life, Sarah Adams had a big conversion experience and became associated with the Congregation of Baptist Believers in London. "Nearer, My God, to Thee" was one of the hymns included in that new hymnal published in 1841. It was known as Hymns and Anthems and was geared especially for Fox's Unitarian congregation in London. The hymn was introduced in America 3 years later in 1844, but it did not gain real popularity for 12 years until it was wedded with the present tune, Bethany. Composed especially for the text by Lowell Mason, often known as the father of American church and school music. Other hymns by Lowell Mason include From Greenland's Icy Mountains, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, A Change to Keep I Have, Joy to the World, My Faith Looks Up to Thee, and Day of Rest and Gladness. Many very interesting incidents have been associated with the use of this hymn. In 1871, 3 eminent theologians, Professors Hitchcock, Smith, and Park, were traveling in Palestine when they heard the strains of this hymn being sung. Drawing near, they saw, to their amazement, 50 Syrian students standing under some trees in a circle, singing in the Arabic language, "Nearer, My God, to Thee." Professor Hitchcock, speaking afterward of the event, said that the singing of that Christian hymn by those Syrian youths moved him to tears and affected him more than any singing he had ever heard before. During the Johnstown City flood on May 21st, 1889, a railroad train rushed into the swirling waters. One car was turned on end, and it was imprisoned. Beyond the hope of rescue, a woman on her way to be a missionary in the Far East. The young lady spoke calmly to the awe-stricken multitude, gazing helplessly at the tragedy. Then she prayed and finally sung the hymn, "Nearer, My God, to Thee," in which she was joined by the sorrowing, sympathizing throng. As she sang, she was ushered into the presence of God she loved and desired to serve. This hymn has also been the favorite hymn of many of the world's great leaders. Our own martyred president, William McKinley, claimed this as his favorite hymn, and it is said that he was heard to whisper its words as he drew his last breath. The hymn was widely sung and played at his funeral and at a memorial service held throughout our land in 1901. There is also the well-known account of the sinking of the ill-fated ship, the Titanic, as it plunged into the icy waters of the Atlantic in 1912, sending 1,500 people into eternity while the ship's band played the strains of this hymn. Despite the Unitarian affiliation of the hymn writer, one would have to conclude that this hymn has been greatly used of God to bring spiritual comfort and blessing to many of his people everywhere. It expresses so aptly the common yearning in the hearts of men to know God, to experience his nearness and victory. Hopefully you enjoyed that reading of "Nearer, My God, to Thee." And it was a blessing to be able to share it with you, and we look forward to seeing you in Hymn Stories number 62 in a few days. Bye for now, and take care.